It's Friday, November 14th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, we're talking about an upcoming play called Braiding Peonies. It's a story about a Muslim family in St. John's. It grabbed our attention because of its themes of impact on communities, from racism to community, belonging, connection, you name it. So we've got a full studio for most of the show. And we also have someone on the line for the conversation too. So we'll start in on the line land, and then we'll bring stuff back here into the studio. Sobia Shaheen is on the line, author of the play Braiding Peonies, and also chair of the Anti-Racism Coalition for Newfoundland and Labrador. Sobia, how you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having us.
Look, thanks for doing this. Thanks for everyone coming in. Thanks for making the time to be on the line for the full show. Tell us about the idea for the play and where that started.
Well, the idea came from at least three different ways. One was my work as a member of the Anti-Racism Coalition, Newfoundland and Labrador, ARCNL, and things that we were, and also my Addressing Islamophobia project, where we were seeing moments of anti-Muslim hate and sometimes violence, physical violence, and sometimes verbal violence. And, we were starting to wonder how people were actually dealing with those incidents. So that was on the one hand. And so really that was one of the ways one of the stories I wanted to tell. The second way was that I was excited to be invited by Santiago Guzmán from Todos Productions to start a project on abolition and transformative justice and in theater, or with theater, and looking at the relationship. So this came from that, and also from my lived experience. I think I wanted to tell a story about a family who was diverse, who was grappling with, really hard questions about healing and justice.
All right, that sets the stage. I'll bring Santiago Guzmán into the discussion. So, baton to you.
Yes, I'll catch it.
Tell us then from that discussion and when you're talking to Sobia, how does stuff then move forward?
Yeah, of course. Well, Todos Productions has been doing work here in Newfoundland and Labrador that focuses on creating space for narratives and voices of equity-owed communities in Newfoundland and Labrador, whose stories are often forgotten, silenced, or completely ignored. So that is the mandate of the company, and we have been doing that for a few years now, and I'm very proud of the line of work that we have produced, uplifting those voices, nurturing new talent. But then I guess someone at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa looked at the work that we were doing here, and they were developing a project called Stages of Transformation. Nikki Shafula was the director of the program. And they invited 6 companies from across the country to be a part of this project. And obviously, at first, I was quite humbled that they had looked at Newfoundland and Labrador, and particularly the work that Todos Productions is doing, a teeny, tiny theater company, in the big scheme of the theater landscape here locally. And they invited me to be a part of this process called Stages of Transformation. And they said that the premise was to explore through the frameworks of abolitionist and transformative justice practices to look at the intersection or the possibilities of creation of theater. At first, I was quite intimidated, I guess, by those words, abolition and transformative justice. And I was very ignorant. I was like, I don't think that's what we do here, because obviously abolition came immediately the thought of incarceration. And I was like, well, but we are doing theater. Like, I don't think that's what we do. And then I had a conversation with Nikki Shafula, the director of the program, and she explained kind of like what were the frameworks. And she spoke of particularly the thing that I held on to was the idea of creating theater in community and moving away from punitive ways of working. And I just thought, oh, that I am doing right now.
Yeah.
That I'm already creating with todos. And then I thought, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. Tell me more. So then when they invited us to be a part of this process, they asked all of the artistic directors from this project that were invited to be a part of it, they asked us to commission an artist, a local artist from our community. And then the first person that came to mind was Sobia. I met Sobia a few years ago at a writing workshop with Lisa Moore. And, it was an all group of racialized and migrant writers. And that's how I met her. And I started learning about the work, the anti-racist and the anti-Islamophobia work that Sobia was doing in the community. She was a writer. And I was like, perfect match. So then I remember calling Sobia and just telling her, hey, I have this project. Would you be interested? And she said, no. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? So, we had a really good conversation about, the possibilities of creation. With the support of the National Arts Center and the Stages of Transformation Project, they allowed me to commission Sobia to write a play. So then I said to Sobia, you can write whatever you want as long as we're exploring these themes. As a dramaturg, myself, I can support you, and my role as a dramaturg really is to be a cheerleader and support a writer in telling the story that they want. So through that process, I was able to, to support Sobia in fleshing out the story, fleshing out the characters. And then I am very, very grateful with the Canada Council for the Arts that have supported the work that Todos Productions has been doing for the past couple of years. So I was very happy that I just proposed this project as after getting it commissioned and developed through different, festivals, the Women's Work Festival here in St. John's, but also the Parks Playwrights Retreat in New Brunswick. We did another workshop at Tremors Festival in Vancouver. So this play has received a lot of support. Thank you so much to all of you who have supported this play. But there was nothing confirmed for the production, right? So then it was this endeavor for me as the artistic director of the company to find those resources, and I'm grateful for the Canada Council for the Arts who they accepted my proposal and they said, yeah, we want to see the show. So that's how all of that came to be. And I think that my role as the artistic director first of the company is to bring together a group of people who can help me tell this story and help Sobia, of course, tell this story. I always feel like I'm a host, when it comes to like artistic directorship. To me is like hosting. I bring people together to have a good time, Theater is a privilege to do, to see, and I try to foster spaces where we can have fun, where we can be ourselves, and that we can, talk about really heavy subject matters while at the same time pushing community for growth and transformation.
And speaking of hosting, there's folks here with us
Exactly.
in studio. Give us an introduction. Who do we go to first? How does this work?
I'll go first.
All right, go for it. Give us the best introduction of yourself.
All right, my name is Sangeeta. I am the choreographer on the play Braiding Peonies. My role really is to work with the actors and their somatic experience of the content of this play and bring some of Sobia's poetry that she's written into the play to life with the actors' physical expression and somatic expression. Yes.
So what were you doing before the play?
So I came last December to workshop some of the movement on this play. And we also had, so I'm actually from Halifax, so I'm based in Halifax. And we also had a workshop in Halifax. We were joined by Masuma Khan, who's the sound designer for this play. And we also workshopped some of the movement and the sound for this play there at Neptune. So it's been a really rich experience working on this play. I feel very fortunate to have been on this project through its different phases. So
Sangeeta, how do you, because I know nothing about this, all right? Like zero. When it comes to like dance choreography, how do you kind of approach that each time?
Yeah, it's been really interesting for me. So I actually have a background in South Asian styles of dance. And South Asian styles of dance use a lot of hand gestures, but those hand gestures really come from like it's a cultural expression. So,
so they're not like my meaningless hand gestures when I talk in front of you now, like I'm doing. There's a cultural element to them.
They're very stylized hand gestures, but they are stylized hand gestures for like in India or in Pakistan or in South Asia in general. People talk a lot with their hands. And this is actually something I noticed when we were sitting with Sobia one day. And she was actually talking about a part of the poetry. So the peony is obviously a recurring image in the play. And she was talking about like massaging a peony at the base to preserve the peony. Okay. But she was using her hands to show that. So a lot of the choreography is inspired by just hand gesture, using that to bring as a symbol or to bring some of the words to life with like actual images with the hands. And then also just working with the somatic experience of the actors. Like I say, I think that the body has so much wisdom in it. So I think it's been interesting working with like even the body's response to like trauma. Yeah. So I think just working with the actors, not just within the choreography, but also their understanding of their characters, understanding how to use that to choreograph the piece and to bring some of the emotional aspect to the dance and choreography. So I think there's like a part of the choreography that's very stylized, and there's a part of it that's just very organic and very much like the body's response to certain experiences.
And how that evolves. Well, let's ask a couple of the performers then. Selena, give us an introduction to yourself.
Okay, my name is Selena, and I play the role of Sadaka in Braiding Peonies.
What is this character like? And how did you approach the character?
Okay, so Sadaka, to me, is someone that is caught between two worlds. The character is someone that was born or spent most of their life in Newfoundland, so they are a little bit distanced from the South Asian community while still having ties to it. And because of things in their life, they feel very judged by that South Asian community, which they would traditionally, others would think they would be more closer to or would identify more with that culture than with a Newfoundland or North American culture. But this character seems to be caught between two different worlds and trying to fit in somewhere, but not really fitting in either space. So it has to kind of create their own space, and I think taking from what they feel will be attributes of one community or the other that will kind of make them whole. So I think approaching the character, she's very, very multi-layered. So even when she says something, it might not be exactly what she means or what she thinks she means, because there's so much other stuff that influences every word she speaks in the play. So I find the dialogue in the play is very rich in that way, because there's so many different ways that she could choose to express herself, but she chooses one way or another because of her own personal trauma. So it's very interesting to kind of portray, like, she's not just angry, there's always layers, or she's not just sad. So it's been a bit of a challenge to kind of bring all of that to life, because she's a whole person.
Yeah. And you got a daughter in the play, right?
I do, yes.
Who plays your daughter?
Oh, my daughter is played brilliantly by this lovely lady over here, Mezabine.
Hi, Mezabine.
Hi.
Good to see you in person.
Good to see you in person.
How did this start for you? How did you get involved with this? And then what were your thoughts as you started with it?
Well, to be honest, every time when somebody asked me this question, I wasn't meant to be here. I was meant to be a marine biologist somewhere in the cold ocean. But Newfoundland is the Hollywood of the North, you know. I have been. My minor was in filmmaking and screen and stage at Memorial University. And I didn't think I was going to do anything with it 2 years ago. I just needed an escape from my full-time science degree. And but it was my teachers who actually, I think, saw something, and they were like, "Oh, how come you're not doing? So you're doing this full time, right?" I'm like, "Oh, no, this is just an elective I'm taking, like one course that started it all." And And I think I quickly, because it was probably my passion for my whole life, and I think I quickly, like this space like sucked me in. The theater, the artistic space sucked me in, that I was everywhere. I was just showing up, just like looking for an escape, for somebody to take me so that I don't have to do the, I love the ocean. I'm still a marine biologist.
It's always going to be there.
It's always going to be
there.
there
Right now, it'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, but I was showing up everywhere. And I remember one of my first plays, like school plays, Santiago came to watch, and I thought he was some like really big, which he was. I was like, oh my gosh, I really hope I say hi to him or something. Yeah. And Ruth Lawrence, she brought him in the class, and
another name, right?
Oh yes, right. And so I wanted to go say hi to him. I was like, oh hi, I've like follow you, blah blah blah. And he was like, oh okay, what's your name? What are you doing?
That's not how I speak.
But fast forward, I saw that there was a call for audition for Braiding Peonies, and there wasn't much information that it was a South Asian play or anything like that, or like written by the story is based on a family like that. And then Santiago reached out and said, I hope you read for this role. Cool. And so I did. And I think from that moment when I read it, before I recorded it, I was like in tears reading my lines that I was given.
What brought you to tears?
It was just so real. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been there, or I've seen my friends there. So this was the dialogues. I didn't know the full context of the piece that I was given, but I caught up on it real quick because it brought back so much of what like lived experiences. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was crying, not like fake tears in my audition. I was really feeling those words. And I was like, okay, I hope I don't get this, because this feels too real to be like playing as a character.
How many times are you going to have to perform it, by the way?
I believe 4.
5.
5 times.
I think I was like 5. There's 5.
Yes.
You have to show up for the 5th one. There's rehearsals. There's all of that. But like you're saying, this is such an emotionally charged role. Mm-hmm. What does that do to you? Like, is it cathartic? Is it like, or is it like, how does it impact you?
I think it's healing for me, or it's healing for me to have this discussion with my friends when I go back and I say, because it's giving me, because when you experience these little things in the big picture of your everyday life, you don't have time to sit down and reflect. Yeah. Oh, this little nuisance of something somebody said to you or something somebody did, but your body felt it. It wasn't right, but you don't take the time, because you don't know if you'll be able to handle the consequences of that reflection. But this role, it's where I'm able to see it from a third person's perspective into a situation, even though it's very similar to, our lived experiences. I'm able to reflect and see, what, this is very human. This is, what, I wasn't wrong to feel this way. No. So this character is this process has been very healing for me, because it's giving me so much space to reflect, but in a safer way where I can take myself out of it if I want to, if it gets too much.
Is there also like a almost like a peer-to-peer element of it too? Like when you're looking at something and you identify with it, you're like, no, but I understand this. Because sometimes on the show we'll talk about peer-to-peer support and just having someone understand you. So if you're reading a script and you're like, but no, I get this because I've lived it. And this is like, how helpful is that to understand that there's someone like Sobia who's written this? There's so many others who will identify with this feeling.
Again, like the story, I feel like it's the community healing, like you said, the peer support. It's very much in the process too. Yeah. Because sometimes I don't ask much questions about when I want to, I'm feeling a certain type of way. It's because somebody's offering that already through their character. Because like when I see Sadika's character, which is my mom in the play, when I hear their reaction, I've had those, arguments with my mom, and I didn't understand her side. I did not want to hear her side. Yeah. But now I can, because through the process of discussion and everything, and I hear, Miss Selena's choice for making these, actions or dialogues. When she's describing, I'm like, okay, I can see it. I can see why she would have done it. Or I can see why my other supporting characters who also had, similar to some real life, person, why did they make that choice? I don't have to ask those questions. I already get that when they're describing it. It's almost like a community healing that we are doing in the rehearsal that I don't think I don't know about others, but for me, it's like a community healing space when we do things, yeah.
All right, so before I go back to Sobia, I'll go to Santiago because I know you have to go in like 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
I know, it flies by. I was like, I've had tons of time to talk to
Well, we
Santiago.
have
The
so
full first
much
half
fun.
of the show. You're hearing from folks now. What does all this kind of mean to you? And then, when you hear just the impact or how a play is perceived from the choreographer and the actors.
It's a dream come true,
Yeah.
I think that I started Todo 6 years ago because I struggled seeing myself represented on stage, I didn't want to be a writer. I didn't want to be a director. I didn't want to be a producer. I had to become one to create space for myself. And when I finally, I was on stage centered in my lived experience and also bringing people alongside me to help me tell this story, I saw the possibility of nurturing a community where other people could feel seen as well. So I think that to me, it became really clear that Todos Productions was for everybody. And that's what Todos means in Spanish, actually. It means everybody. And I think that, hearing everyone's perspective on this process, on what this play means to them, it's really validating to the work that we have done over the past couple of years. I think that there is a huge need in the community still to tell these stories, to carve this space, sometimes unapologetically, as we have been doing it for the past 6 years. And I think that even though we're looking at a very specific communities, particularly here in Braiding Peonies, we're looking at a Muslim family that is centered in the play, I also want to remind everybody that this play is for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of how specific it may be, that's wherein lies universality in the specificity. And I think that I feel quite honored as a person who is not from the South Asian diaspora to be able to be a part of this process and to bring my perspective as a migrant, to be able to understand and to share the things that I do understand, but also to sit back and learn because there's so many things that I don't know. And to me, I think that my role and my job has been of nurturing, being like, okay, let's have a conversation. And sometimes it's also understanding the cultural humility, for me, that is very important in a process like this where I don't know. So then I need to do research. I need to ask my peers. I need to ask people who have the lived experience in the room. So I feel pretty fulfilled, Producing theater is hard. It's exhausting. You can't see the bags under my eyes, folks, but they keep growing and growing. But, I think that it's every single time that we're in rehearsal that I am surrounded by these folks that I just go, every second of my work as a producer is worth my time. Because we are here, we laugh. Even though, as I said, we're talking about very heavy subject matters.
It's hard stuff, but
we are there to have fun, to tell a story. So I feel pretty honored, pretty grateful, and I just hope that people, we put so much work into creating beautiful art. So it is the audience's turn to show up and to, be able to come in with open arms and open heart, open mind to take in what we're preparing for them.
Yeah, and that builds empathy, it builds community, it's connection, and from mother-daughter relationships, how many people can understand a mother-daughter relationship?
Exactly. So
many, right? So there's the stuff that you might directly connect with, and then the other stuff that you might not know about, but at the same time, if you got a little bit of empathy in you and you understand a situation and human emotions, it's, like you said, it's for everyone and you can connect to it.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of those things that when you see a play like this, you go, oh, I never thought that was the thing that was happening in my community. My neighbors, whose name I may not know, may be dealing with this. And I think that to me, the theater that excites me, Adam, is the theater that galvanizes people, our society, that makes us think, that excites us of the things that, that we need to talk about. My hope is that people will leave this performance feeling full, with obviously a lot of conversations about anti-racism, anti-Islamophobia for sure, but to also think about the humanity, how do we build community? Because to me, if I were to summarize what this play is about, would boil down to community. Yeah. We need to show up for one another. We need to support each other. And I think that this is an amazing opportunity for the community at large to come in and listen a perspective that they might not have heard before, and just, take a baby step towards learning something new. And in a very gentle, obviously we're not there to judge. We're not doing a test at the end of the show, although that sounds fun. No.
Yeah, ABC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, multiple choice. Write an essay. No, but, we're not there to test anyone.
This is theater.
It's a story. So, in the same way that we see many stories I never questioned if Cinderella was not for me, Yeah. I watched it and I was like, great, excellent. I'm going to go learn about this, young girl who is having a really bad life. And then, magic and whatever. So we don't question those stories, right? So why would we question a story that perhaps is too far away from our lived experience? I would encourage everyone listening to just open up their hearts and show up.
Yeah, and take in a bit of... this story, this slice of writing from Sobia, of the Newfoundland and Labrador South Asian community, and to get to tap into some of the experiences and and to feel a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you got to go.
Yeah.
I'm not kicking you out. I'm just saying.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for, oh my God.
Look, my whole life is clock monitoring when you're on the air. So everything is like,
That's pretty good.
I'm always watching the clock. And when people tell me stuff, I'm just like, okay, Santiago said they got to get out of here soon. So you're going to Music and Ellison?
I'm going to Music and Elle, yeah. I am hosting the showcases this afternoon at the Sheraton Hotel.
There you go.
So if you want an autograph or a photo with me, you know where to find me.
Thanks as always for coming in.
Thank you, folks. And I'll be listening as I exit the stage. But thank you.
This is what I like. I love this, right? Exiting and then turning on the signal right away.
That's exactly how we do it.
5 days a week. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, folks.
I'll go back to Sobia, who's been waiting patiently on the line as Santiago Guzmán takes off. Sobia, you're listening this whole time. Just thoughts on what you've heard so far, as the person who penned or typed Braiding Peonies.
Honestly, my heart has been full since this whole since the whole production began. I wrote a story that was truthful but fictional, and about a Muslim family, about a family that has a non-binary child who's dealing with sometimes transphobia at their school. I wrote a story about Muslim family, having different ideas of what faith was and what religion and what Islam was to them. I wrote and I think that the diversity in the story really is reflected. The diversity of perspectives is really reflected by the actors, both, Selena, Mazabine, Nikolish, Nicole, and Leah Dawn, Elena. They've brought their bodies and their thinking to this, and this really enriched my story. Santiago, as a director, he gets it. He gets this vision. He gets it, and that honestly makes me very happy and humbled. And to have such talented folks like Sangeeta or Masuma and the director, Santiago's not just a producer, he's also the director and he's also the dramaturge. And so, he's been at every aspect of this. And, this is as much everybody who's been working on this project as it is mine. And I can say that set designer, the costume designer, the light designer, everybody's telling the story in a way that I could never have imagined. Like, never.
And I will ask this again at the end, but because I have not yet, I know there are people listening like, so when do I see this? So can you just give us the information on how people can see it and when they can see it?
Absolutely. It's at the Lantern Community Center, the Bonavista room, the big room on the first floor. It is at 35 Barnes Road on November 27th to 29th. It's at 7:30 p.m. And we have matinee shows on Saturday the 29th and Sunday the 30th at 2 p.m. There's a lot of accessibility features. There's, audio transcription and also ASL interpreter. So Santiago, the Todos has really gone out around that. The space is accessible. So we've got lots of features of this, and really, it's honestly, I hope people have as much fun as I have been having in this process.
And folks, I'm sure there's information on Todos, TODOS, productions.com. And you can also just Google Todos Productions. Sangeeta, I'll go back to you. So, you've got the choreography in mind. You go through it, and then you're watching, the actors. You're talking to Santiago, talking to Sobia, all of this stuff. What's it like when you start to see the choreography and how it gets interpreted by the actors, plus with the story? What were some things that stood out to you from the play as it really kind of took form and shape?
That's interesting. Yeah, I really, I will say one of the most magical things about working on a play is the process, and just trying things.
Yeah.
So that's also just been really magical to see every time how the movements are maybe interpreted differently sometimes, how maybe a moment of improvised movement becomes something really powerful that can be incorporated into the final product. So it's been really, I think the process has been very lovely in that sense, is to be able to be open to what emerges in the process. Yeah. That could become part of the final thing. And I think every read through the poetry, I think, we spend a lot of time on the poetry and trying to understand what each line means to Sobia. And I think kind of like everything we've been talking about so far, it's I think a lot of this poetry is very personal to all of us. It's as racialized artists, I think we can relate to a lot of the text. So it's interesting every read through how some additional level of connection with the poetry is illuminated. And I think it just heightens for the physical relationship to the content of the play. So,
and what's the vibe Halifax here? What's the vibe like here for doing this work compared to when you're working in Halifax?
That's a really good. I think that's very similar. I think so. I actually met Santiago when I came to the Atlantic Dance Gathering that happened here with Neighborhood Dance Works. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was in 2023. So it was a group of us, dance artists, who came from Halifax to Newfoundland. So I think as Maritime, we're all from the Maritimes. So I think there's a sense of community in terms of the kinds of work we're interested in making. But I think right now, because in Halifax, as I'm assuming also in St. John's, there's just a larger immigrant and refugee population. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of what Santiago has said so far about just sharing those stories, I think often they go overlooked. My family immigrated to Halifax in 1967. My grandparents immigrated to Halifax in 1967. My dad grew up there. He was 13 when he moved from India to Halifax. So there's a lot of stories, I think, immigrant stories that we don't hear about and that we don't highlight. And it's really, I think, being able to meet other diasporic artists, share our stories, connect, and heal. It's such an opportunity. And I think, I think often we grow up in these communities and we're very much in the community. Yeah. And so how to share that knowledge and that embodied knowledge outside of that community, I think it's only really, in my experience, happening now.
It's kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you go back, when you think of the amount of time, right? Some of the diaspora communities have kind of grown and been around. Some of it now for St. John's, some of it is I mean, the mosque has been there for a long time in St. John's, and well, there's a couple now. But point being, like, there's been a growing, the diversity has been growing, and finally, because of folks, and I'm pointing at an empty chair where Santiago was just sitting, but because you have someone like Santiago and similar folks in Halifax who are able to carve out space for these stories.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think. I think I'm sure often like within the South Asian community. So India is a very diverse place.
Yeah.
So even within the Indian community, we grow up like maybe in like the South Indian community, or like we're very like in very small community. There's like
there's caste. There's a lot of complexities to.
Exactly,
there's a lot of layers to India and the cultures and the communities.
Yeah, so it's just like I think it's nice to be able to like also connect with other racialized communities and see the connections there, and then also, envision a future where we all are seen.
Yeah,
and,
I love that.
Yeah.
So for the mom and daughter here, the actors, I'm curious of like, how do you figure out you got chemistry for a role when you're reading the script, right? And then you meet each other. It's like, okay, hi, you're playing my mom, I'm playing your daughter. Like, what's that process like when you're kind of going through stuff? Who wants to tackle that one?
That is such a great question.
All right, Celine, I'll go to you first then.
Oh, okay.
As the mom.
I think when we first started with the script, we were doing a lot of workshopping. So we only saw each other through Zoom. So we didn't really, I don't think, get the opportunity to connect until the first day we walked into rehearsal. And I remember I walked in and Mezzabine had this huge smile on her face. I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. Yeah. So I think working with her, and just I think really listening to each other, like when we are in character, and as Mezzabine had mentioned, we make certain choices as actors for how we want to say a certain line or portray an emotion. And I think really listening to each other, it helps you kind of pick up and just sort of carry the ball from there. So there was I think a pretty good connection. I mean, Mezzabine can say yay or nay to that.
Is she a good theater mom, Mezzabine?
She's really good to the point that I actually thought she was so annoying when she was reading the lines. I was like, annoying in the sense that when she was being my mom and she was acting that way, I'm like, oh my God, this woman doesn't understand what I'm trying to say.
Mom's the worst.
Yeah. Like, she's so good. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was telling one of my friends, I'm like, the person who's playing my mom, she does it so well that she brings out my emotions that I used to have towards my mom when she was being unreasonable.
Wow.
It's like that. So that means when she is being loving, that also translates to somebody, that can get those feelings that you had towards your mom, where there was like loving, okay, she's fine. This is a calming person. This calms me down, even though she's chaotic,
I've never ever heard someone say annoying and use it as such a nice compliment for a performance, because like
amazing. It's probably the best compliment I've had.
Like, this is my first time I've heard
annoying
this.
is my dream.
Yeah.
What then, like, for both of you, from this kind of from the stage relationship of the story, and I know we're not giving away the whole story, but what are some things that you kind of, is there anything you took away personally from lessons, or that you, I mean, you mentioned what you identified with, but is there anything you identified with for your own, either your story or learning or connecting with, like, in the bigger sense?
I think for me, playing the role of Simreen's mother in this play really awakened a huge appreciation for my own mother and what she must have gone through when we were growing up, and we had very different ideas from the way she felt things should go. And it's like Mezzabine said, you don't often understand. And I think I think this might be the first time I've played a mom, and it was really eye-opening to me, especially from a cultural perspective. And just I think about the values my mother grew up with when she was young, and what she wanted to kind of instill in myself and my sisters when we were growing up, and how that must have been so difficult living in a culture completely different. And we were totally immersed in Newfoundland because at the time we were like one of only two brown families in the community that I grew up in. So
this is kind of what I was teasing earlier, right?
Yeah.
But so what, was it St. John's or outside?
No, I was actually born in Gander and grew up in Gander.
Right.
So there was only one other brown family in the vicinity.
Yeah.
So it was very different. And for my parents, it was like, how do we...
I actually think I know the other family, but anyways, go ahead.
How do we keep our culture that we grew up alive in our children when they are completely submerged in this other culture that is not our own, but we want them to be a part of because they've grown up in it and that's what they've known growing up, and these are all their friends and what they're learning, like the language, for example, the way that they dress, etc. I think I never really, for me, it was like, oh, Mom, I don't want to wear that. Oh, it's so not cool or whatever. But it was just her and my dad trying to kind of keep that South Asian identity alive in us so that we could appreciate it, especially with things like the language, the music, the art. That is something that when you grow up in a more isolated community, it's really hard because my parents didn't have the benefit of having a larger South Asian community around them to kind of sort of support it. So it was really, really different for us. So the biggest taste we got of like a South Asian community or hearing our parents' language was when we left Newfoundland on summer vacations to go visit family in either Quebec or in the States. And that's when we got a taste of, wow, this is what it's like to see, and this is what it's like to see other people that look like me.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen anyone that looked like me. And it was only when I was like a little bit older, I'm going to say like maybe preschool and kindergarten, that I realized, oh, I am different. I'm actually not white. Because when you're a little kid,
you don't realize it
you
first.
don't realize. Everybody looks the same. You think you look the same, more or less. So it was very, as a little kid, it's a big revelation. And then growing up, you kind of feel this sort of, well, this is my community in Newfoundland. These are my people. But actually, no, it's like I'm privileged. I've got a foot in both worlds, but I'm not really in them sometimes.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting, it's a very interesting balance.
That must be, because on one side of it, that it sounds in a way great, right? It's like, where are you from? Well, I'm from Gander. But also, I'm part of the South Asian community. Oh my gosh, all the there's so much there. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but sometimes folks in Gander, I don't know if they completely, and sometimes in the South Asian community, I don't know if they completely, and I'm kind of like half and half. And sometimes what's the push and pull like been for you over the years on that?
It's been rough. I'm just going to be very honest. When I was growing up, especially, I thought, this is actually horrible. And I had good friends. In Gander, I had good friends, in terms of South Asian community, there wasn't really one. So my best brown friends were my family, my extended family, like my cousins and stuff. So it was like a little bit of a challenge growing up. And then I made a choice to sort of find some sort of happy medium that I could live with that still honors my parents and their beliefs and their culture and their language. But at the same time, I needed to carve out my own identity because I'm kind of like first generation. It's different. You almost need your own space in a way because you're kind of a part of both communities, but not really. You're not really only belonging to one of them. So
I saw a bunch of my friends in university from the South Asian community, and these were the first generation kids. So we were coming up together. So it's like same as what you're saying, right? And I would see that, like the push and pull sometimes.
It's hard.
And then you'd hear about the mom, daughter, or the son, parents type of like wanting more, sometimes pushing on a Western path, when the folks are like, well, actually, we've got our own ideas for you, and everyone trying to kind of get through that together. Sangeeta, what about yours? How does this bring?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like a lot of us in the diaspora probably have like this. It's like a spectrum of relationship to this, but I think generally like, yeah, I relate to Selena. It's interesting. I was saying that like Selena should go to Toronto, and I think also Selena's in the process of writing. I don't know if this is. Can I say it? Selena's also in the process of writing a play, and I was like, you should take this play to Toronto because the South Asian community there would be so like interested in the fact that here's like this South Asian born in Canberra. It's like
great story.
I think it's something that like South Asians in bigger cities can maybe take for granted sometimes if they've grown up in like a South Asian community or like a populated city with
even just on the food front. It's like, yeah, sure, the grocery store's there with all the culturally appropriate food I want. And then you grow up again, you're like, nope, not having it. And St. John's for most of the last forever, right? It's changed recently, but yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I think depending on where you grew up, right, and how many other South Asians you had the opportunity to grow up with. Like I was very fortunate that when I grew up, my parents put me in South Asian dance, although that's interesting because like I find now that there's a lot that I connect to from South Asian culture because I was put in that dance form, but then at times it feels like there's a lot that can sometimes come into conflict with like other conceptions of dance in Canada, for example. So like maybe I think in Canada sometimes we can take for granted that in other places there's a completely different worldview that we've not even considered. Or even in this country there are like we're all living in silos. And there is a paradigm that I think people take for granted if they don't have to navigate multiple worlds. Yeah. And I think because my practice is rooted in South Asian traditions, there's a lot that I see from that lens that I'm very happy that I do. Of course, like sometimes you come into conflict with like different ways of knowing. But I'm actually starting to see it as a very rich experience to be able to like see the world so complex and nuanced, and to not take anything for granted, I guess, in terms of what is true and what is real. And
extra sight is a great thing.
Yes.
It can be.
Yes.
I mean, there's downsides too, but seeing more, understanding more.
Yeah, totally.
Sobia, what about yourself for this part of the conversation? You know, you've written this play, which we were talking about, and then we get this conversation of individual experiences somewhere, family experiences, South Asian experiences in Newfoundland and Labrador and beyond. What are your thoughts?
So I can relate with both Selena and Sangeeta about, you know, the sort of some of the pains and some of the joys of being from diaspora, within the diaspora, and the exclusion and yet the longing and yearning for connection in all spaces, and I think I can relate to that. And I definitely had some of the similar experiences. Even though I grew up in Southern Ontario, where there were lots of South Asian folks, we were not always well integrated with those communities. But we had a very strong sense of we are Pakistani Canadian, we are Muslim. That was very big in our life. So, but yet we weren't as connected to community. So that yearning for community has been also, so in some ways it was a protective factor for us. And other ways, when you're dealing with racism or hardship inside the dominantly white communities, that disconnection was hard. And so, but what's funny about this play, or perhaps not funny, is that the child, Samreen, they are the ones who's longing for a connection to their faith community, to their faith, and it's Sadhika, the mother, who is very skeptical, and she's probably skeptical. Well, I know she's skeptical because I wrote her. So she's skeptical because some of the pain she's experienced, the pain of disconnection, and the child, who's aligned with their father and the other characters who are not South Asian, but they are Muslim. But they connect. Sorry, I misgendered my own character. They connect with this larger Muslim community, which is, a figment of my imagination, but also spaces I've seen in my travels both in Newfoundland and Ontario. So I think that this is like the opposite. The child is pushing the mother. Samreen is pushing Sadhika to connect or to see a different way, see the community in a different way. So it's actually, it's kind of, you wouldn't expect that caught between two worlds is not what we think about when we think about first generation children or second generation children. We think about, it's the other way around where Sadika knows she's Muslim, she's happy to be Muslim, but, has tension with the community.
So then when you look at the community of Newfoundland and Labrador, you've got a play that it touches on racism, Islamophobia, community connection. When folks go to see it, when you put something out there like this in the world, what's the overall big, we've talked a lot about what people are getting from this, but for yourself as the author of it, what's the big hope from what folks might take from this?
Well, first I should say I'm really scared. Yeah. So I'm scared. I think I wrote this with the intention. Well, I knew it was a play. It wasn't a surprise. But I hope what they get from it is a sense of connection and understanding that, as difficult as community is, that there's something there, and that one of the ways in which to deal with some of the racism and anti-Muslim racism, anti-Black racism, is to come into community and to talk about that. And that was, one of the things I really wanted to talk about was, our connection to justice, our connection to healing, and our connection to community. And I think community care in particular. And I think that's what I hope they get from it. And I think that there is connections for other folks, I think, who are seeking community and seeking, it's not just a narrow group of folks, but I think it's a lot of us who are seeking connection and trying to find a world that is softer than the one that it is sometimes.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but what does scare you about it for putting this out into the world? I mean,
it's writing is personal, and I have never written a play before. This is my first play. I never thought I would write plays or a play. I haven't written plays yet, but I never thought that. And there's a vulnerability that comes from presenting, how you argue with yourself in your head, or how you the kind of multiplicity you live. So there's a vulnerability there. I think that I really respect all the artists who do that work, actors, writers, directors. Like, you're bringing yourself into this space of theater or art or other forms of art. There is a vulnerability, like somebody that, whether it's imagined or not, but I think it isn't imagined. You see something of the author that perhaps you might not have seen just by talking to them and asking them how they are.
Yeah, no, it is a very vulnerable thing to put out, to write, to create, to put it out, and to get people to sit down and watch it and think about it. Final thoughts from everyone. Mezzabine, final thoughts for today.
I hope you come watch the play. Yeah. And like Santiago says, it's very much for everybody. It's about empathy, justice, and community. And I think that's something more than we need right now, especially for young people.
Yeah, it's a time where the more empathy, the better. I think. Selena, final thoughts?
Same. Please come watch the show, and I hope that people can relate to it on a human level, because I think at the end of the day, it's just a story about people. So it's a human story. It's not. There's a lot of specificity, of course, that it occurs in the South Asian community, but at the very base level, it's about people, any people.
And one from Gander.
And one from Gander. I know. I see where you're going with that.
I just wanted to thank Santiago and Sobia for bringing us all together to work on this project. I feel like the process itself has been quite healing. And please come and see this play. I hope that you can gain an understanding of like what our communities are like and what we're trying to move towards. So,
Thanks for that. And Sobia, you got 10 seconds, the final reminder of where the play is and how to watch it.
It's at the Lantern in St. John's. It's November 27th to 30th. There are 3 7:30 p.m. shows and 2 p.m. and on Saturday the 29th and Sunday the 30th. It's at 2 p.m. and tickets are already on sale at Eventbrite.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much, folks. The Signal at cbc.ca for thoughts on this show and any show. Next week, full week, Climate Week on The Signal. Every single day, a different type of climate impact and look at a climate change story just here on The Signal. So don't miss it. Please tune in. Have a great weekend. Cheers.